afternoon, friends. It is Sunday, August 16th, 2026, and we are back at the Universal Orlando Resort checking in on the construction progress of Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift, as well as the construction progress going on over in Islands of Adventure, where Poseidon's Fury came down over the past several days. It also happens to be Fast and Furious Supercharge's last day, so we're going to head into the park a little bit later and cover that for you as well. So before we get too far, let's head on over to Hard Rock and see what crews have been up to on Hollywood Drift. All right, friends, it looks like crews have been busy. We have a new concrete pad poured around the electrical room for all the switch gear and electrical components, so they've gotten that done. I also see a lot of conduit that's been run outside the building, above the concrete pad and down into the ground. So they're getting a lot of the electrical components more finalized. It also looks like we have several transformers that are now permanently installed on their concrete pads over here. Back over by the switch track, I definitely see a lot more equipment being installed. I know crews have been working on adjustments over in this area, but they're finally installing more hardware. Looks like we still have a cable tray to be installed. Still hanging out on the mid-course brake run. However, these other cable trays are already prepped and installed. Here is another look at the new concrete pad. Crews are still working on the two flanges that they need to rework. Looks like they just have a lot of it covered up. Hard to tell if they've begun final welding or even have the new flange set in place. It also looks like crews have been working on groundwork right underneath the high element, basically making this area more pretty because the walkway is right next to it for HHN. Looks like crews have really been making a mess over here. They have equipment everywhere and materials everywhere. Our test concrete have become a storage lot. Isn't that nice? It looks like crews have actually finished the support pier for the missing column. Looks all ready to go. They're probably just waiting to make sure that everything is cured and ready to go before setting it. Crews have moved the crane a little bit closer to where that piece is, so I expect it to probably get installed this week. Here's a closer look at that second flange that they are working on. I don't think it's quite installed. They have a lot of areas wrapped up. Over on the far side of the site, it looks like not as much drainage and irrigation piping is left. They've moved a lot of equipment or installed it. I see the final column. Here's another view of all the materials in the staging area. Well, it looks like we don't have our lake over here anymore. Even though we have been getting rain the past several days, it's still hot in Florida. Today's going to be heat index over 100 degrees. I haven't been here any longer than 40 minutes, and I'm sweating. It also looks like crews have installed a lot more catwalk on the speed bump area, but only to about there. They have a lot left, but they don't have the equipment yet, or the hardware. We have not seen it in the laydown lot, so they have a lot of work to go. Also, we found that there's a template that has been spotted on the track over near the station, which is to check the heights of the drive tires. So hopefully they still have it out, so we can take a look at that a little bit later once we go into studios. All right, friends, we're gonna head on over to Islands of Adventure and check out work on the Lost Continent. Let's go see what they've done. I know Poseidon's Fury should be gone, so it's gonna look really weird. All right, we made it to Islands, and walking through Seuss, we have construction walls up because they are working on the concrete and ground behind here. It has been falling apart for several days, so they're finally working on it, some general maintenance. And here is another look behind the walls. Yeah, it definitely needs some work. All right, let's go check out Lost Continent. All right, friends, man, this looks weird. You can see all the way back to Studios from here now. Also, it looks like the light tower is no longer to the right of Mythos, so they must be getting this area prepped for some sort of change. I do see some work lights on, but it's the middle of the day, so they don't really need them. Also, we did find a little gap in the wall, so let's peek behind it. We're not going to be able to see much, but we'll see a little. All right, making our way further into Lost Continent, I see something different. We have a couple of trailers that have been placed over here. From what I understand, this is going to be the new health services trailers for when they demolish the restrooms and the current first aid area. So they're going to move it over here a little bit closer to guest pathways, as they do need this service for guests even during construction. All right, friends, let's walk on over to Hagrid's to see what the wait time currently is today. It's a Sunday, so I expect it to be busy, but let's go take a look. We're here later than normal, so we're not going to ride it, but I'm just curious. All right, back over at Hagrid's. It looks like it's an hour wait. It's actually down from what it was this morning, so they've definitely caught up from the morning rush, but not too busy over here. Hour, not bad. I would typically wait for that. All right, friends, let's take a look at Jurassic Park River Adventure. I don't think there's going to be anything really new. They're just working on roofing, but we'll check in and see if they made any meaningful progress. Well, at first glance, there's definitely a lot more new plywood on our River Adventure entrance building. And the gift shop building is prepped and ready for thatching. Well, it looks like we got water down there still. Probably either from the rain or they were doing some system testing. Oh my goodness, this got cleaned up. At least a little bit. There's still some foam, but this is looking better. Way to go, Universal. All right, over here at Thunder Falls Terrace, the sign has finally been removed. This had been still advertising stuff for a little bit, but it's finally empty. Not really much to report. I know the menu boards got taken down, but yeah, everything is still sitting in there. All right, friends, if you are visiting the park here in the next several weeks, I don't know exactly what day they're ending this, but you can get this beautiful keychain if you're a pass member. So make sure to stop by the Passholder Lounge in Toon Lagoon over in Islands, or I also know over in Jimmy Fallon at Studios, you can pick this up as well. So make sure to do that. All right, friends, done over at Islands, so let's head on over to Studios and see what's going on for Halloween Horror Nights. Starts in a week, so they got to get all the rest of the props put up. I heard they had team member previews the other day, so I expect to see a lot finally complete. Well, on our way over, let's look at Category 10, because I see a lot of work being done. So far, it's definitely a lot of dirt moving and getting ready for foundations. And we made it to Studios. They have this side blocked off right now for UAP nights, because that is where the event check-in will be. We're heading over here to head on in. No wait, unlike in the morning. All right, walking in, we're gonna head back over towards Jimmy Fallon to see the station area for Fast and Furious, but wanted to give you guys a look at the HHN props. Well, to my surprise, barricades are not up over here on Music Plaza, so we're gonna take advantage for right now and get a couple shots of Fast and Furious. Looks like crews in the booth section have installed some boxes for electrical. It also looks like crews have gotten more stairs and catwalks installed, but not quite everything. All right, walking through Jimmy Fallon, I see a new prop and a bunch of other little props. So we are getting closer, guys. One more week. All right, let's go check in on Fast and Furious back by the station. All right, we made it back by Jimmy Fallon for the Fast and Furious station area. Big mound of dirt is still here. It looks like that's growing. It's actually making it a little bit harder to see underneath the station area, but I do see something of importance. We have a template up on the track. Here's a shot of the template. They are using this to check the level of the drive tires. Make sure they're all the right heights for the train so they can actually move the train, and they're not too tall where they cause damage or excessive wear. Something else to note here, I see plastic getting wrapped on parts of the track over here to protect it. They might be doing concrete up in the station platform area now. Under the station area, it looks like we do have crews working today. I see equipment getting moved around. So even on a Sunday in the station area, they are working full steam ahead. All right, friends, I think that's gonna do it for over by the Fast and Furious station. There's really not a lot going on. So let's take a look at Halloween Horror Nights. They have a lot of stuff up, including a truck over here. All right, going past Mummy. Doesn't look too different over here from what it was on Wednesday, but I have heard some construction walls have come down over here at Finnegan's to open up the walkway for HHN. So let's go look. All right, so it looks like they have moved construction walls around Finnegan's. I don't see anything different in the building though. So they just moved this to open up the walkway a little more. Hiding some of the concrete block around the building back here. We got a party going on. It's a party. Oh my gosh, and of course on Fast and Furious Supercharged last day, the scaffolding around the Ghirardelli Tower is gone. For the most part, a little bit on the right, but it looks great. They did a good job. All right, friends, just like I said, Fast and Furious Supercharged, it's its last day, so they're out here with the DJ, dancers, the whole 9 yards for its last day. And no, we are not going to take a ride. And for those who are here tonight, to get the final ride, you had to have gotten a wristband. They are all gone for the evening for tonight, but they're going to do another distribution for pass holders for the event this evening, so there'll be another round for it. Yeah, 55 minutes is one of the longer wait times I've ever seen on this ride, but I expect it to hit 120. We'll keep checking ParkScope to see what it gets to later this evening, right before park close. So it's good to see the ride go. Yeah, I didn't go on my last ride because I did that almost 2 months ago after we found out that it was leaving. Good riddance. Hopefully we have something way better to replace it in the coming years. There is still no announcement on that, so we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But Audio Supercharged and hello Hollywood Drift next year. All right, back over by Simpsons. Looks like they got the facades all completed. They did that quick. All right, back over here by Fort Nightmares. They finally put the facades on some of the risers and some more theming elements by the light towers, even over here. Let's head on into it and see what else they added. All right, walking in, they definitely added a lot. There's boxes everywhere, more props. And this is going to be a nice little jump scare moment. Even more. Yeah, it looks like they got pretty much most of the props finally set up. The final little bits that they needed to do. This is more the easy stuff. That's kind of why they leave it for last. It's just a lot of it. All right, so I think that's going to be it for Fort Nightmares. Let's make a little walk through the Hollywood section before heading on out. And on our way over to the Hollywood section, the Odyssey Trojan horse is finally gone. All right, over in the Hollywood area, I'm not seeing anything different from what it was like last Wednesday. I think crews really finished this scare zone up pretty early. It was one of the first to start getting installed into the park, so I'm not surprised that it was one of the first to finish. But one more week and we're gonna have scare actors out here. All right, friends, that's going to do it for your Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift construction update and general updates around the park. As you can see, it's pretty easy getting in here later in the evening, even though tonight is a UOAP pass holder night, so I expect it to get very busy in the next hour or two. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe. It really helps the channel and our mission to 1,000 subscribers. And for your next park visit, make sure to download ParkScope on your Apple device. We also now have a web version, parkscope.io/web, so check that out before your next park visit to look at all the latest crowd levels, wait times, and more. Until the next video, have a great, awesome park day, and we'll see you around.